Hello there, and welcome to the special edition, the COVID-19 special edition of J241, electronic media copywriting. Now, obviously, given the recent announcement about what's happening across our country and, of course, across the globe, and specifically here in our own backyard here in Whitewater, we are going to make some changes temporarily here that I want to discuss with you. And so I've been thinking through how we get through this course in one piece here. So that's kind of what I want to share with you guys today. There's some subtle changes, but I would say nothing that can't stop us from our goal here. So let's go through this quickly. Here's a copy of the note regarding COVID-19 and spring break. Now, obviously, we're going to, from what I've understood, now, if you read this through, March 14th is when spring break starts, just a couple days from now. So we're adding a week to spring break, which is not the worst thing in the world, I guess. Obviously, the catch-22 there is that they really don't recommend us traveling anywhere. So, more than likely, I'll be canceling any travel plans I have here coming up. But anyway, so spring break has been added. So we're gonna maintain our schedule. However, so although we're not going to meet in class, there will be some stuff we'll just stay on task with. So obviously we have things due on Tuesday. I'd like you to try to still honor those dates. Now we're going to probably not present our TV ad 2s, but let's stick with that deadline here so we can stay on task with everything else. And the rest of it, obviously we'll talk about in a second here, but here I'll just take a look at this here. This is better. This is the schedule. Now, right? So we added a week here to spring break. So we're, of course, then once we get back from spring break at the end of March, we are meant to present an alternate sort of course delivery system. So for us, that falls right over the time frame when we will be, we're supposed to be in conferences. And that's the big issue for us now. Obviously, we're going to have to kind of change how we handle conferences. So let's talk about that next. But this is it here. And who knows what's going to happen at the end of this period here. I mean, ostensibly, we have our presentations that start in this time frame here, the 21st. Actually, the 23rd is when we first start giving presentations. So hopefully, we'll get this ban lifted and we'll be able to meet back face-to-face again. If not, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But obviously, we're going to still try to do our level-headed best to complete the course in good standing. So we'll have some alternate version of presentations that will occur. More than likely, something similar to what we do in 110 online, where you record yourself presenting your content to a select group of people. And record yourself doing that, and then, of course, publish that back into Canvas so I can grade that. But that's what we'll do that if we have to. So, but anyways, right now, as it stands right now, this is questionable as to whether or not we'll be able to do this. But so let's take a look at this is a snapshot of our syllabus. So obviously these conferences, it's going to change. So what are we going to do? How are we going to handle that? So we won't have class during those days. So you're free and easy there. There will still be maybe some assignments and things like that that I'll email you guys during this period of time, like you to stay on task with. But you notice here the 23rd is when the presentation starts. So that's when, hopefully we'll get this ban lifted. But if not, we'll figure that out. But anyway, so these conferences, right, are all kind of scheduled in my syllabus. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to make this day an important day, the 21st. Okay? So I'm going to show this to you guys in a second here. This is my revised timeline. And see this in red here. 4/21 is when everything's due. Okay, instead of, just a couple things on that. So instead of just having a draft, you have the time then, let's just do this. Get your scripts done as much as you possibly can. Scripts, storyboard, everything by this date for your final client project. So the completed ads as much as possible. And we're just picking one concept of the two you did for your preliminary pitch, right? So we're going to stick with one. I'd like you to get that as far down the road as possible with your completed ads, so radio and TV. Now, I'll give you feedback on this here. That should give you a good start on things. And when I get this on the 21st, it's due at noon on the 21st, as we'll do, I will right away turn around and give you feedback on your ads and give you kind of the unvarnished truth. If you got a lot to be verbs or if your storyboard's not up to snuff, all of that stuff I will give you feedback on via Canvas. So you notice that this is now an assignment. 421 is now a new assignment, which is essentially just turning this stuff in for review. So there's no real grade, except the progress report does get a grade. So completed ads won't be graded. The progress report I'll give you a grade on when you turn that in. And then, of course, my feedback will help fortify your preparation for your client meeting, which should fall in this range here. Now, if you want to get this done before 421, go ahead, get that done. As soon as they come in, I'll try to grade those and turn them back to you so you can stay on top of things between here and here. But that's the deadline, 21st. So your materials all have to be in by then at the latest. But again, I'll say this, if you can get them done earlier, that would help you plan and prepare for your final client meeting and give you some time here for your presentations. All right, so right now on paper, it still stands that we'll be doing in-class presentations from 423 to 57 all the way up to the end of the semester. That may change, so stay tuned for that. First, quickly, I want to mention to you guys things that are due and when. First client meeting, right? So we're going to talk about that today. If you haven't kind of already started thinking about this, you should start thinking as soon as possible about a client and who you're going to work with for this final project. So that meeting is hopefully going to happen by Tuesday next week. So let's say do your best to get that scheduled and meet with the client. And there's a form here as well that you'll see. That's a part of your packet, which is also attached to this email that we'll be sending out. And also, of course, it's in Canvas, so you can't miss anything there. TV Ad 2 is also due on Tuesday next week. So a couple things you got to get done there. And then right behind that on Thursday next week, week 9, the preliminary pitch, which we'll discuss here in this lecture. Okay, so that's kind of what's going on now, kind of a heady time here in J241. So try to stay on top of things as best you can, and let me know if you have any questions. We're going to talk about the campaign project today, the overview, the project timeline, assignment components, time frame, value criteria, and of course my expectations for the results. First and foremost, I love this assignment. It's because I love this most because it's actually working with a client. So getting out there and getting that done, which seems kind of daunting when you first think about, meeting a client, but I would say this, I generally get really good feedback from students on this assignment. Once they cut their teeth and get out there and actually meet with clients, it becomes like one of their favorite projects a lot of times. So once you've accomplished it, it'll establish your ability to develop a thought-out series of related ads. That's kind of what we're after here, something we call IMC, Integrated Marketing Communication. Right now, we're not doing a full IMC campaign here. Essentially, what we're doing here is creating a radio and a TV ad, but they should work together, right, toward a common goal, which is to elevate the brand or the product or the service you've selected for your final project. This is a part of your packet, which I will send in an email to those folks, but who haven't had it yet or received it yet. But this is a quick kind of read on what's due and when. So that first meeting, next week, Tuesday, client meeting number 1 should happen by 3/17, St. Patty's Day, and then 3/19, your preliminary pitch is due, which we'll talk about. And then once you've got your preliminary pitch done, obviously we are going to shift gears here, and obviously you see the red there like we've discussed, kind of a change. Now, normally we had 2 weeks of conference reports planned for that. So that's going to be kind of a work period. So you'll have I call that an outside lab. You'll be working on your stuff. The drop dead date for that is 4/21. Now you can get that into me earlier, like I'd mentioned before, if you wish, for earlier feedback. But really what I'm doing is giving you feedback on your completed ads. In other words, you should actually get them done completely with the right format and everything else. And then, of course, also your progress report is due on the 21st at the latest. And I will provide a grade on that. You'll have those client meetings, and then right behind that, once you're done with that, you're going to fine-tune everything and prepare your presentation and get all your materials done, because from 4/23 to 5/7, it's presentation mode. So we've got another 2 weeks here of just straight-up presentations all the way through to the very end, 5/7. Last thing you'll do is meet with your client again. You'll meet with your client 3 times in total, right? Client meeting 1, which is a form for. Client meeting 2, which is not a form for, so it's less formal, but you're still going to show them what your work is, where it's at, and get their feedback. And then client meeting number 3 is when you're going to present all of your great work to them. And that's going to happen the last day or around the last day. Here are the components: 30-second radio ad, of course, the 30-second TV ad, and corresponding storyboard. Other things you'll want to look at or do is a professional-looking summary document, which we call the executive summary. That's a big thing as well. It's a 2-pager, and there's all kinds of examples, and we'll talk about that in this lecture as well. 3 meetings at minimum. You can have more if you wish, but 3 meetings, and 2 of those are documented fact-based forms that you'll have. Number 5, of course, you want to meet with me And then you're going to have to present your work as well. So that's part of this. It's formal, so we'll talk more about that as well. And then another thing you'll end up doing is a critique for one of your peers in class, and you'll be assigned that the day of your presentation, that person. All right, so summary document. So first thing is, I want to talk a bit more about this, and we'll touch on this again, but there's examples in Canvas of these. They're called executive summaries. It's usually a 2-page document that summarizes everything about the campaign you've prepared for them. So everything from preparation, conversations about your target audience, all the logic behind your eventual pitch is what we're talking about there. Paper should be organized easily for. Paper should be organized for easy readability, of course, and you look at the examples I've provided. That should give you clues to how to write these things, but obviously do your own work there. Campaign timeline, you'll need to have a minimum of 3 formal meetings with your client. Okay, we talked about that already. Meeting 1 is really important because that's where you find out the 3 main things they want you to focus on, if there are 3, but there usually are 3 things. And that kind of gives you some clues. So you want to go into that meeting prepared. So do a little research on your chosen client and be ready to ask good questions and get to the heart of the matter so you can start creating that content. All right, so after conducting the client's needs assessment, which is meeting 1, you'll need to type a brief pitch. It's called the preliminary pitch, which we'll talk about in an upcoming slide here. And that's really where you start brainstorming on ideas that came out of your meeting, that first meeting with the client. Remember, that's 2 campaign ideas, right? So we'll talk about that more, but there's a form for that as well. So once you've met with the client, you should have some ideas percolating around that, and you'll want to kind of fill out that preliminary pitch. The next step is for you to present, kind of tweak things as we've discussed, and then go and meet with the client a second time. And that second time is meant to show him or her like kind of your progress, and hopefully your storyboard is close to being done if you have that opportunity, because that's the best way to show it. You'll get feedback then, of course, on that. And then you're going to turn around and present these things pretty quickly right after that. So that's a little, very linear, sort of quick explanation of the flow of project work here. Like I mentioned before, you're going to do also a peer critique worth 50 points. So the day of your presentation, you're going to be assigned to somebody. Then really kind of summarize that quickly. And there's some examples I've already provided in Canvas and, of course, in your packet. But you're going to be assigned with somebody and you want to write sort of a critique of their performance, of their work, both good and bad, right? So you want to kill them with kindness, but also kind of give them some feedback so that they can improve. Last thing I want to mention is the critique should be written directly to the person you've been paired up with. I'm the one who's going to grade those, so you want to put those in Canvas, but ultimately you want to write this to the person and then obviously deliver that to them as well. Client meeting 3, after you've presented everything in your ad campaign, right, you're going to create a 3-ring binder with all your best work with the executive summary on top, followed by the radio ad, followed by the TV ad, followed by your storyboard for your TV ad. And that'll be pretty much it. More on that in a little bit here. So the portfolio you're going to hand off, right? It's going to be a professional looking summary document, that 30-second radio ad, like I said, 30-second TV ad, and a storyboard. And then, of course, you have that in-class critique you're going to turn into me as well, and all your documentation. Here are how the points break down. Now, 375, right? There's 1,000 points total in this class. So this is, over a third. Approaching, that's a huge number. So you want to make sure you obviously keep on task with things. Preliminary pitch worth 50 points. The progress report, 50 points. These are easy money, by the way. If you do these the right way, that's 100 points for you there. Presentation, 50 points. Your peer critique, 40 points. Executive summary, 50 points. And the ads, 50 points for the radio ad, TV ad. You get 85 total for the script and the storyboard. There's a deduction if you miss our meeting for some reason, our conference report meeting, or if you blow off any other meetings. You can lose up to 60 points there, so be mindful of that. And final thing here I would say is obviously, when you meet with your client, you want to make sure that first time especially you're able to pin them down for 2 other meetings as well. So smart students are the ones who have that first meeting and then say, hey, can we schedule these 2 other meetings as well? If you're able to do that, that's going to save you a lot of heartache down the road. And if let's say you don't get it done, falsifying this information will elicit a failure for this class. I'm not joking about that. So I would say make sure that you don't forge or falsify any of these documents. You want to make sure you really actually talk to your target client. All right, so let's talk about the preliminary pitch a little bit. This is an important document here now. Assuming you've selected a client and you've already met with the client, right behind that meeting with the client is going to be this preliminary pitch, which is due next week, Thursday, week 9. This assignment requires that you have 2 good ideas for 2 campaigns, which means you'll be explaining 4 ads in all. At this stage, you're not required to write the ads. I'll be clear. Don't write the ads. You probably have an idea what the ad is about, and you can even tell me a few things. Follow the form. So here's the form, right? So let's first talk about the concepts, all right? So you got the brand, and you've done some research now, and you've met the client, and you got some ideas percolating. What you want to do is brainstorm on 2 concepts regarding the brand. Now, the first thing I would tell students is to find that unique selling proposition. And I've used Station 1 as an example. One of their big selling points is this 2 hot dog and beer and fries for $4. It's a pretty good deal, right? So using that as an example, that could, in theory, be the overarching idea that you build 2 concepts for. So maybe concept 1 is, like I've used the example, a gorilla flying in a hot air balloon landing in the parking lot at Station 1. And he's hungry, so he goes in and he gets 2 hot dogs and a beer. And fries. So that's concept 1. Maybe concept 2 is something completely different that still illustrates that that special. And then, of course, down each of the concepts, you want to explain what happens in each of the ads in general terms. You're not writing these things again, like I said, just yet. But what you're doing is you're kind of explaining to me in layman's terms kind of the concept and kind of what might be happening there. And then just answer these questions, right, as best you can for each of these. All right, so the first thing I want to do with this preliminary pitch is introduce your client to me. So tell me in a few sentences here who they are, where they're located, where they are in the life cycle, if they're a startup or a new company, or if they're well established with a few competitors. Either way, tell me who they are and kind of what their current state is, and then those 2 unique campaign ideas. Okay, that's it for that. And that's due on Thursday next week. So, right, some more facts regarding the campaign project quickly. So first you'll need a client, right? So you got to find that. It's a local business or service organization of some kind. Generally, there's a ton of these smaller companies here in Whitewater. And again, not allowed to pick a chain. You got to find these one-offs or smaller mom and pop companies that need your help. So it can't be a chain. And I would say this, stay away from B2B as well. Lots of students like to use their parents' businesses, and I'm perfectly fine with that, with one caveat or one concern. If they work for a B2B company, in other words, a company that sells sewer cleaning supplies or medical transcription or widgets that other companies need, that's not the best selection. So I'd like you guys to dig deeper and find somebody that's more B2C or business to consumer. Some things you should tell your clients: you won't charge them, right? This is obviously free for them. Just need their time. That's and I know it's valuable, but you want to just let them know that right away. You're not going to get charged for it. They need to be able to meet with you 3 times. That's the other thing too. So they may delegate to somebody else, a frontline manager or somebody else, to kind of take over that reign. Either way, you want to sort of nail that down pretty quickly. You'll provide them with a radio script and TV script, no actual produced commercials. However, I'll say this: now we've decided to actually produce the radio ad. That might excite them. So do a good job on that. And we'll talk more about that as we get to it. But the last thing here I want to say is they can participate even if they don't plan to advertise. So lots of times they don't actually need to advertise or think they need to advertise. Encourage them to participate anyway. FAQs. Can I work with a partner? Yes. You will complete exactly the same amount of work, though. So let's say, for example, you chose Second Salem and you both want to go meet the client together at the same time. You can do that and take notes, but you're on the hook to do your own campaign, okay? Top to bottom. The only real synergy or thing you'll gain is just being able to sit together, and maybe your partner or somebody you're doing this with will ask a question you didn't think about, and you'll capture that information as well. But really, you're going to do your own preliminary pitch. You're going to do your own campaign. You're going to do your own radio, TV. All that stuff is going to be separate from the person you're with. Can I have a parent or sibling as a client? Yep, absolutely. They may work you harder, though. Can I use my employer as my client? Lots of people do that and have a lot of fun with that. Involving their coworkers and boss, even in some cases, can be a lot of fun and really adds value to some of the creative I've seen. My boss is too busy. Can I use someone else as a contact person? Yes, it's fine to use an assistant manager or somebody else, maybe a bar manager or somebody who's a bartender who's been there a while, to play that role of the client. So you can do that. The key there is to make sure you're able to meet with them 3 times. So that's kind of what you want to ask there. write your progress report to me as if I'm your supervisor and you're helping me keep track of your progress. So good, bad, or ugly, right? What's going on? And tell me that in layman's terms. And this is in your package, you'll have guidelines for writing these progress reports and also a bunch of examples there. So it shouldn't be a problem. All right, what to hand in for your final project? A 30-second radio ad, right? That's the first thing, right? Remember proper formatting, and don't forget timing as well. So you're going to print these things off and you're going to pencil outside left-hand margin 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. Told into 30 seconds on the left-hand column here. Now, you're not just doing that to do that, although you'll probably have a good idea if you've got 90 words in your radio ad that it's going to clock in at around 30 seconds. 30-second TV script. Again, don't forget the timing, right? So timing is important for both. Coordinating your storyboard and getting that done as well should be a part of this. Electronic copy to project in class. So PowerPoint works well there, like we've discussed and I've shown you in a previous lecture. Full color letter size storyboard for client. So they get the full Monty, they get the full color copy of the storyboard. And then I just get the black and white version. I don't nothing sexy for me. I just want black and white. Your executive summary is also something you'll have to do, right? That's a 2-pager. There's a report to the client that details their needs, like we've discussed, and why are these ads good? All that stuff. It's more of almost a love/business letter to the client. Key thing there is subheads, right? Just putting in the right buckets so it's easy to kind of riff through the information. Your critique of the classmate, of course, that's due. Now, the last day is 5/7, so May 7th, which is a Thursday, and that'll be the last day of class. There'll be presentations on that day. So if you're doing your presentation on that day, you'll be assigned a critique that day, and you'll get an extra 24 hours to get that critique in, okay? So that's that. You want to be diplomatic but truthful. It should be a page long. Also, you want to turn those 2 contact forms at the end, right? So the first one and the third one. And don't forge those. And we'll talk more about final presentations, but you're going to be on the hook to present these things, right? Your work. And really how it goes is you have 7 to 10 minutes. And if you have just a 2-minute presentation, I know it's not long enough. You're not putting your time in. But what people generally do and what I'm looking for is you to set us up. Tell us about the client. Tell us about kind of the process. Talk conversationally about kind of how things went. Have a conversation with us, the audience, right? So I'd like to have you do that more conversationally, extemporaneously we call that. But fill the 10 minutes there with good content. And obviously you don't want to get right to your creative. You want to lead up to it. And I think a smart move to do is to talk about some of the concepts you elected not to choose ultimately in favor of the ones you did choose and why. So all that stuff can fill time for that 7 to 10 minutes. It's up to you how you organize these things. I would say, you want to practice a few times to make sure you get a good kind of take on the content you're presenting. And practice makes perfect, as we know. And of course, organization is key as well. You can put it to any way you wish, but ultimately, usually the best way to do that is tell us about your client, tell us about the process, and then a few minutes in, you can start showing your creative. And then the last thing you do then, of course, at the end is kind of wrap on that. What did you learn? What things would you do differently? That sort of thing. So build me a 10-minute presentation that your creative's inside here somewhere. Last thing I'll say is, this is an old school picture of some guys dressed up. Now, I'm not looking for this necessarily, but I'd like you to dress corporate casually. Be ready, dress like you're going to a job interview, if you would. And that's kind of what we're hoping for. When you hand things into me, I don't want a binder, right? The client will get the binder. I don't want the binder. I just want all the stuff with a rubric on top. And you'll have you have that rubric in your hands already. So just everything goes underneath that rubric and staple that rubric to the top of everything else. The client gets this portfolio, this nice looking portfolio, right? You can go to Walgreens or to Walmart and you'll find that these are pretty inexpensive. You can get one for less than $5. But this is a way of saying thank you and giving them kind of a summary of everything. All right, so that's a hot and heavy, quick down and dirty version of the final project for those of you who maybe needed a refresher or maybe those of you who missed the lecture last week. So let me know if you have any questions on that. Obviously, give me an email if you need to talk to me or call me or can text me. Talk to you soon. Good luck with your prep this week and next.